have now, it's a level playing field. People don't have to travel to any country to be able to get it done. We can use the same Zoom platform we're on now or any other platform. In Jamaica, we have trained and certified mediators and arbitrators who are at the highest level of certification and qualification. Some are on the Supreme Court roster, some are chartered arbitrators, and so on. So we have the training, we have the certification, we have the practice. Some have been going for 20, 30 years. We have the English language as a primary language. We have competent, trained, international grade interpreters who would have worked on the seabed and a number of other events. And we have interpreters of sign language, and we have the capacity to do Braille and voice. So the entire package is available, and we have none of the impediments. Right. So time for action.
Time for action. How do you feel about how the society views ADR practitioners that are not trained lawyers?
I know that in the early years, certainly lawyers tended to prefer to use lawyers to help them resolve matters involving litigation. So if a matter is before the court and you're an attorney representing one of the parties and you are referred to mediation, whether at the lower courts or by automatic referral in the Supreme Court, or you opt to try mediation, there has been a tendency to prefer lawyers, perhaps because the basic competencies are of a person who is an attorney. We have also seen, though, where they have opted for subject matter expertise. So if it is a matter touching on, say, engineering, and there's an engineer on the roster, they might prefer that. Or if there's somebody who is in construction, with one of the fields related to construction, they might prefer somebody with that competence. We found that mainly in the Supreme Court, automatically referred mediations or self-referral. In the parish court referrals, there has not been an issue at all about whether the person is an attorney or not. And that has worked very, very well, because what has happened is that everybody who is trained as a mediator, we've tried to let them do cases from the parish courts so that they would develop their capability to ask questions, to summarize, to identify issues, to promote confidentiality, to promote the comfort of the parties in the process, and to arrive at a written agreement. So those skills they have honed at the parish court level, whether they are attorneys or not. And we have found that that has worked very well, and the public has taken to that. For the community mediations, we have primarily relied on people who are not attorneys, but are more respected as community leaders. They may be justices of the peace. So it is the JP part that is at the front, not whatever the profession is that they bring to the table. But the bottom line is, it really doesn't matter whether you're an attorney or not an attorney. The rules are pretty clear-cut. If a mediator who is not an attorney is not sure of if a legal issue arises and they're uncertain as to what they should do, then the person who is responsible for mediation can send them to the appropriate section of the legislation that may apply to help them deal with that. But no mediator is making a decision. So, being an expert in what the legal position is on the outcome is not relevant at all. But it's a work in progress. And as you mentioned at the beginning, younger people may not be as knowledgeable about, everybody has heard about the courts or they have seen the courts on TV. So there's a level of comfort with what goes on there. There have been a few movies that have come out over the years.
Glamorize the court scenes.
Yes. So it's important that every single year of life we keep sensitizing and educating people about this. so that that knowledge deepens and the comfort with using the process, and other alternative processes to a judicial outcome, can be encouraged.
Do you think in any way that how our politics is, it affects the awareness of the average Jamaican around ADR methods? Do you think there's any way that that's affected? ADR consciousness is affected?
Well, I don't really think that ADR consciousness has been affected by the politics per se, although I think there's a real scope for more political leaders to talk more about peaceful conflict resolution in their divisions if you're a councillor, or constituency if you're an MP. I think this is something that really should be in the toolbox of every political representative as well, because what it would mean is that they would be more equipped to integrate good practices in the areas that they represent. So when there are disputes across party lines or within the parties, there would be an ability on the part of leadership to perhaps have people come in, send people to Dispute Resolution Foundation, utilize the mediators who are on their own teams, maybe even from a different constituency, to help promote confidentiality. You may bring somebody from an outside constituency or outside division. And I think the general peacefulness of Jamaica could be positively impacted by such a thing. Now, I am very happy that I had the mediation training and was able to bring that to the table as Jamaica's political ombudsman. Mm-hmm. There are many who, might have expressed a view, well, we don't want, it's not mediation, we need them to be punished, we need you to do whatever. But, the Political Ombudsman Interim Act and the Code of Conduct, or the Agreement and Declaration on Political Conduct, I think even without calling it that, these were predicated on mediated outcomes. Mm-hmm. I say that because the mandate of the Ombudsman is to investigate complaints about proper actions by political people that may harm people or may harm good relations between supporters of different political parties. The Act does not give the Ombudsman any authority to report any breaches to the Director of Public Prosecution for criminal sanctions, and up to now does not allow the Ombudsman to impose any fines. So even a ACIArb situation is not necessarily facilitated by that power. But I think being a mediator and having that out there has somehow helped more contentious, very difficult, very miserable kinds of disputes can be sorted out. We have seen that because when you have seen something in the press for a couple of weeks and it's really awful and people are taking sides, and then you end up with a meeting or a process by the Ombudsman and there's an apology from a person who may have been alleged to have done something. And the apology would mean that they have accepted responsibility for what has occurred, and they recognize the need to make amends, and they're willing to expose themselves to the public by making those amends in different ways. So I think that has shown the power of mediation to move people from, drawn out confrontation to a situation where we're people together, something happened, we are able to move on because I'm willing and you're willing to do something to allow that to go forward. But I think more work is needed, certainly in our shop, to publicize what we are doing and how important mediation is to a civil community, where civility, whether it is in the digital space or in the face-to-face, is more important. And just believe people, it's quite still amazing to me that people find it hard to believe that you can solve problems. Because we have seen that, if you If you beat a child for wrongdoing, they may stop doing that wrong, but you may find that other problems arise,
Yes,
including how they feel about you. Some training with some folks on that project, and one of them, Durani Quarry, who is from Granville, I think, in St. James. I remember her saying, boy, you know, my children are saying they don't like this RJ thing that we gone and learned, you know, because we were training them in restorative justice as well as mediation. Yeah, because it's the first time, you know, mommy, when something happens, you just give us 2 licks and it done. But now you want us to sit down and talk to one another and reason out what happened and so on and so on. And so, you know, it was quite funny to see how the children themselves were seeing the parenting change. And we're actually seeing that they were more accountable under the ADR process than they had been under the punishment process. So I think these are the stories that need to be told. You know, we all have stories like that as mediators.
During our team's research, we found that from very early on, I think as far back as the 90s, the ADR practice of restorative justice was introduced locally through the team at the Dispute Resolution Foundation. There's a lot of work that's being done now by the Ministry of Justice, having established these various restorative justice clinics around. We would want for our audience to have a background, however brief or how you see fit, on how restorative justice was introduced to the country.
RJ is such a phenomenal thing, you know, and I'm very happy that it has had the uptake through the Ministry of Justice that we have seen in recent years. The Dispute Resolution Foundation in its earlier years used to engage in a lot of international conferences and fora. So things like the Association for Conflict Resolution, National Institute for Dispute Resolution, Society of Professionals in Dispute Resolution. And so you found that these organizations brought to the table quite a range of processes and ideas that could help people solve problems. RJ is really of a larger group of people rather than the one-on-one conflict resolution that we tend to see in mediation or arbitration. It's more along the lines of even a deliberative dialogue or something of that nature. So when we were introduced to this early in the day, you know, in the early days of the DRF, which was incorporated in 1994. So from that time, we were really including some RJ tenets and principles in the training that we were giving. So I think we had like a half-day session in the training program, which was an RJ training session. We also were fortunate to be able to bring in a number of experts from abroad who came in and did different sensitization to the judiciary, to the ministry, and to communities on restorative justice. The fact there was a huge project, again supported by the government of Canada through CEDA, where a large contingent of persons had the opportunity to go to Canada and to view a number of RJ type activities that were going on there. And there was a committee of the Ministry of Justice. We provided some sensitization to the committee, and many different individuals developed their expertise later and shared their expertise in the development of RJ in Jamaica. We had hoped that the RJ program would have been a program that the Dispute Resolution Foundation would have facilitated for the Ministry of Justice. A number of social justice components, and so appropriately it built out RJ as quite a substantial program. We had also hoped that the Dispute Resolution Foundation might have shared some of the justice centers that the ministry was putting up, because we had a network of peace and justice centers around the country, but which the entity was really not able to support adequately. And so since the concept was now being used by the ministry, we thought it, would be a good collaboration. For a variety of reasons, that has not really transpired as we hoped. But we are happy to see that work is going on in these justice centers, because at the end of the day, the main thing is that the public is served and that it is well served.